There we go. Here we are. It is Japanese Knife 101. I don't remember what day it is. I think it's Thursday today.
It is Thursday, January the 28th of 2021.
Wow. See, I couldn't remember. I never know what day it is.
My computer says.
So. Oh, your computer told you. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's,
yeah, because I don't know. I just look smart because of my computer.
Computers are good for those sorts of things.
What are we doing today, Lordy?
So today is, Japanese Knife 101. It's Knifewear's Ask Me Anything, which we do a couple times a week. We've got Kris Armitage.
Hello.
That fella. He's our manager up in Edmonton. If this is the first time you're watching, I am Kris Lord. I'm the manager of the Ottawa Knifewear. And we get together a couple times a week. Normally it's Kevin, the guy who owns the company. But Kris is subbing in for him because he's on vacation. He's not allowed to work. Although he did tell me he might join and harass us a little bit today. And I told him to be careful because if he talks about knives, he has to buy us dinner.
And I'm hungry.
So, yeah, well, we could probably eat quite a bit.
Yeah.
That being said, if you have any questions, we always have like kind of a loose topic that we want to talk about. There's always some company news that I like to go over. But for the most part, we are here to help you guys pick out a knife, take care of the knives you have. We can talk about food if you like. Kris and I both were chefs in a former life. I'd say between the two of us, we cover a lot of ground as to things that we can cook.
Only 30 or so years.
Yeah, and we each have our own things we like to do. And, but you know what? Don't be shy, right? So if things kind of dry up a little bit, we've got a little bit of material put together here. We were going to talk about what are the top 10 questions that show up in a knifewear store. But we've already got people asking stuff. So I thought maybe we could just get to that. We'll start with Nate here. So Nate wants a new bread knife, and what should he get for
her? Well, the Miyabi Black Ash is the ultimate bread knife. I don't know that everyone wants a $600 bread knife. I do. I think that it's the only knife that you need in the zombie apocalypse because you could probably cut a tree down with it. That being said, the Tajiro DP I think is $109 and has really tiny teeth, so it's got a small crumb and it's awesome.
Yeah. I like the Tajiro. I can't remember. It's not a DP. It's not a Tajiro DP, but it's the F687. It's a 270 millimeter
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 270 because I don't know. I find I'm not very good at shaping bread, so any loaf of bread that I ever make is way too big. So I always need a little bit of a longer bread knife. So I know that Tajiro one, it's like $120 as opposed to $109. It's an inch and a bit longer. I can try. Yeah. Can you type in the old chat there, Kris?
I don't think I can.
Well, I'll do it then.
You can do it, but
all right. Let me see. So if this doesn't work, Nate, you need to tell me. The Tajiro DP, or I think it's the F687. Let me know if that shows up, if you can actually see it. Oh, that's a pretty good question there. So let me know if you can see that, Nate. If not, I can shoot you an email. So we do have a handful of people watching on Instagram, and what I'd like to say to them is that there's much more conversation going on that you can't actually hear right now. So if you headed over to knifewear.com/YouTube,
nice sign.
Look, it's backwards for you, but people on Instagram, it's forwards for them.
Wow.
So if you headed over to YouTube or Facebook, you can kind of get the whole experience. We're having a conversation, Kris Armitage and myself. So there's more going on. It's not just a fat guy sitting on a stool wearing a nerdy t-shirt talking to himself. So
I just posted a link and it says private chat for me. I don't know if that just went to you, Lord, or if that popped up on the YouTube chat.
There we go. Boop. There we go. I got it in there.
Boom.
Perfect. So here, we got a couple. Let's head back a little bit. Chris Elter Voog, aka the Voog, asking what is the best sauce to put on a steak.
I like compound butter. I like compound butter. I do a lot of blue cheese butter in my house.
Yeah. I like, so when I used to work at a restaurant here in Ottawa called the Wellington Gastropub, and we would change the menu every single day. So we would often find ourselves flipping through old textbooks and whatnot. And I'm a pretty big fan of, and let's see if you can remember what this is, Chris, because this is a deep cut.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sauce Foyot. Do you remember what sauce Foyot is? That
does ring no bells.
No bells at all, eh?
No. They should take my seal back. What is a Foyot?
It's Bernaise with demi-glace put in it.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, you'd love it. Yeah. So it's like it's like a emulsified butter sauce, like a hollandaise, but with some tarragon and then a healthy dose of veal jus. So
nice. I worked in a steakhouse where
that's like the most decadent I could think of.
We used to just reduce a ton of veal stock until it was like that color of brown most people call black. And then mix it with the equal amount of reduced wine, like just reduce a decent Cabernet until it's, syrup, and mix those two together. And you really only need a splash of it on the plate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do like, yeah. Yeah, because sometimes you don't want, like, if you're cooking like a big fatty ribeye, you don't necessarily want you don't want a super, super rich sauce. Like a salsa verde would be really good.
I often just deglaze my cast iron with a splash of whatever I'm drinking and then pour that over top.
Yeah, that's a good move too. I know one time we did, over on Instagram, the Wellington Gastropub just joined. And here I am talking about sauce Foyot.
There you go.
That's a quiz maybe for whomever's watching that, if they can remember what that is. Because I don't think it's the guy running the kitchen watching right now. Here, our buddy in Bulgaria, Sergio, is asking, what do you prefer, Masakage Zero or a Denka? I think we're probably, odds are, if I had to bet, Chris and I are both going to agree. And so let's see. What are you going to say?
Well, if I was only going to look at it, I'd say the Zero. But if I was going to use it, I'd say the Denka.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, and this is something that comes up fairly often, is people kind of get a little bit fussy about Fujiwara's fit and finish on things. If that's the kind of thing that you're really, really going to stress out about, like an irregularity in the handle, or like you want like a super even Tsuchime finish or something like that, go for the Zero, because they are more attention is paid to the look of the knife than on a Denka, whereas a Denka would outperform it. It's kind of like, I don't remember the name of the show, but I never really, like, like Kevin like watches like Top Gear and all these like car shows and stuff all the time. I remember years ago when I was in college, I had a roommate who watched a lot of car stuff. There's some people waving on Instagram. Hello, Instagram. You should go to YouTube, knifewear.com/YouTube. And then it's not me talking to myself. There's actually a whole other person. But I remember watching this show, and it was this guy driving around Las Vegas in like a rat rod. He had like this shitty old Volkswagen Beetle. It was brown. It was all rusty and everything. He'd like bet people at stoplights.
Yes.
And like he beat them every time because he had some ridiculous like Formula One engine in this like rusty old bucket. And it's kind of like a Denka's kind of like that. Now it's not like a rusty old bucket, but it's not meant to look.
No, it's a hot rod guy's tinker car. Where it doesn't look like it was quite finished, but it's going to blow the whatever just drove off the lot that looks real sexy out of the water. Mm-hmm. No, that is a good analogy.
Yeah, so it's kind of, It's like when I ride my motorcycle around. Like I don't have a fancy motorcycle. Like my motorcycle, like I bought, like I don't. It's meant to get me to and from work, and it looks kind of cool. At least it looks cool to me. Yeah. But whenever, like I live in Barhaven, which is like it's a suburb here, and I don't know what compares out in out in Alberta, but there's so many kids in my neighborhood driving their parents' fancy cars.
Oh, yeah, and
even my little even it doesn't matter what kind of car it is. Like if it's a teenager driving it, like they'll never win. You know, like they'll never win. You know, like if it's someone driving like a Beamer and they actually know how to drive a car, like I don't win those, but I win most of them. And I'm too immature to not partake.
No, of course.
Yeah. Kevin has been with me when I'm driving around town, and I enjoy racing teenagers.
I've been in Kevin's car when he enjoys racing people too, but
yeah.
He likes to pay the speed tax.
Yeah, see, we don't have cameras all over town like he would. Yeah. Here's a good question from our buddy Nate. Blank is saying, what's the name of that super long Tojiro knife? It was like a giant Nikiri. Do you know what that was?
Oh, no, I don't remember what it was called. Let me see if I can find it on the website. We've got one that's similar in stock right now, but I don't think it might be Tojiro.
Well, someone's ringing phone in the store.
Your guys are popular.
Oh, Megan was smart. She brought the phone with her, so I don't have to stop doing what I'm doing.
Nice.
So Nate asked, while you're looking for that, I'll answer my half of this question. What's the first knife both of you bought? So when I went to culinary school, that would have been the first time I probably bought a knife. I was given an entire set of Sinellis, which, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't much of a fan of them when I got them. And I'm still not much of a fan of them. I find the handles are too big. They don't fit well in my hand. But when I graduated from culinary school, I bought myself a 10-inch Victorinox chef's knife, the ones with the rosewood handle. I didn't get the plastic handle.
Nice.
I bought the rosewood handle one. Now I don't have it anymore. I did, but with that knife, I bought the long, like Granton edge, like smoked salmon knife. I bought one of those, and I bought a paring knife as well. And they were all, I only have the slicer left. I've lost the other two, which means they probably just got stolen along the way, or maybe I gave them to a younger cook or something. But my first Japanese knife that I bought, well, I guess no, I got a whole list of firsts. The first Japanese knife I bought was a Global. But my first handmade knife, which was something that I always wanted to get, was a Masakage Mizu. I bought a Mizu 210, a 75 mil petty, and a 270 Tsujihiki all in one go.
Nice.
I did that with a company credit card.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So those were my first kind of like, my first knife, and like a couple kind of rite of passage knives along the way. What about you, Chris? What did you get?
Well, I got a set of Vicnox when I went to culinary school. And I think I still have every single one of them. And my worst scar ever on my knuckle is, I'm not giving you guys the finger, there's a scar there. Was stabbing myself with the boning knife that came through the side of my knife roll, which is why you should have knife guards. We talked about that on Tuesday. And so that was my first set, but my first Japanese knife was actually purchased for me by a chef that I worked for.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
It was a Kasumi. We still sell the boning knives. I had the boning knife as well. As the only knife that was ever stolen from me that I know of was my Kasumi boning knife. I love that thing. But my first handmade,
I'll grab one,
was a Masashi Tsujihiki. After I'd worked at Knifewear for, I'd probably been here for 6 months, maybe 8 months. I bought my first knife. And I was very broke when I started working here and was about to have a baby, so I wasn't allowed to buy any knives. But I went out to Ottawa after I'd been working here about 8 months. Yeah, that's a great knife.
Yeah.
And you guys had a Masashi that had a carbon steel core. It was like the old mirror finished SLD ones, but with this carbon steel core. And I really wanted it, but I did not have any money. And so I worked really hard to sell that while I was in Ottawa. and I sold it. And I went back to Edmonton and I told the guys in Calgary that I got rid of it, and I was very proud of myself because I didn't have to buy it. And my next transfer came up and they'd found one and put it on the top of the transfer for me. And I went,
very kind of them.
But Masashi actually engraved it for me the first time he came to visit us in Edmonton. And the only thing I've ever used that knife for is to slice my homemade bacon. And so he engraved smoked pork belly in Japanese on the backside of it.
Nice. There's a picture in Kevin's book, you know, like in the like the, I guess like on the covers, there's like all the funny pictures. Well, there's that picture of Masashi going like kind of thing. Yeah. That's at North and Navy. And Adam Vetterall, the chef at North and Navy, has the Tsujihiki and a 240 in that same line. And that's the knife that he's holding on to, is because he went down in the basement and they've got all their knives up in the prep area. And Masashi found the knife he had made and was super excited.
Yeah.
So I think I can't remember, but I think he might have engraved it for him like then and there. Like he had, because we had like, he had his
hammer
chisel in his little briefcase, right? Like, I think he might have done that there. So, well, that's cool. I didn't know that. Because, the first knife that I bought after working at Knifewear was that 150 Kagura Gyuto that you snuck out of Edmonton, brought it to Calgary because I couldn't afford it right away. So I brought it home and hid it in my desk until I could afford it, and then I bought it. So
yeah, that's a beautiful little knife.
Dr. G's got a good question about cutting boards. Now, I've never actually used one of these, but I know that we've sold them, and I'm pretty sure the guys up in your store really like them.
Yeah, we'd read about them, and we had Naoto bring some in for a garage sale a while ago, and I think we're going to try and get some more because they were pretty popular. They scrub down really nice, and they're rubber, but they have a wooden core in them, and so they're great for doing fish and stuff on because they don't absorb as much of the odors as a wood board might. And because of that wood core, you can set it over top of something like the sink. And so if you're rinsing out and doing that kind of stuff, it's really easy cleanup. So I think that Naoto's working on bringing us some more.
I know that
make myself a note because I really like them.
Someone had asked about them in a previous video, which resulted in Kevin and myself texting Naoto about it during the video.
That's
so
handy.
But what sometimes needs to happen is someone else needs to ask Naoto, because I think Naoto sees my name come up in his phone and he just thinks I'm and rightfully so.
Well, I have it in now. I in my shop is starting to work with Naoto on some of the Japanese work. She's training with him to help take some of the load off because that man works too much. And so I'll just put a bug in her ear, and then we'll have more of a direct line that maybe won't be ignored like we are, because she's less annoying than I am.
We've got some people are cooking. It seems Peter says he enjoys a good chimichurri on a steak or HP. I've got Irish in-laws. HP is very popular on Sunday dinners.
Yes.
Blank is frying some pomme fondant right now.
I saw that. That makes me hungry.
Yeah. So he or they, I don't know. They should, if they're doing it right, they've got a turning knife at home.
Yeah. Got to have 7 sides, and they better all be the same.
Oh, you know what? I had to do that. So for anyone who doesn't know, I on occasion teach at Algonquin College, which is like community college here in Ottawa, and I've done a couple of classes there. And there is a day where I had to show them how to turn a potato. And I did it once when I was 18 in culinary school, and I've never once done it since. And so I went and got one of the old guys, and I said, look, if you teach my class how to turn a potato, I'll teach your class how to sharpen their knives. So I got it's a good bartering system. Good bartering system there. Janine was saying, if my written message was backwards, why is my shirt not backwards? It's because this platform that we're using turns everything right side round. But on Instagram, it's all in reverse. So I wrote this out, Janine. You'll be very proud of me, Janine. I wrote that out backwards, so it would show correct, so people on Instagram could read it, because I am dedicated to the people who watch Japanese
and talented. That's a skill.
Yeah.
We're going to have you painting ambulances soon.
Oh, Jesus. Spoon Monkey has a question that sounds like it might be harder than me, harder than something I can answer. Controversial, but do knives actually cut or do they pry?
Oh,
I don't know. That sounds more like a philosophical question.
Depends on how sharp they are.
I guess so. Yeah. Like, I guess if you got a real wedgy knife, it's going to pry. But I suppose, like, if I think back to grade 10 science, I guess a knife is a wedge. It's like a simple machine. It just comes to a very, very fine point. I don't know. I guess if you're going to ask that question, we got to ask things like, what is cutting?
Oh.
Is cutting just not prying things apart on a much smaller level?
Wow. That's pretty deep for a Thursday afternoon.
Pretty deep for I may or may not have consumed a large quantity of Marv bars before we started today. So
you're
maybe
you don't
know.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's legal. It's legal. It's legal to eat chocolate. It's fine.
Totally fine.
I don't know, Spoon Monkey. That sounds like that's kind of. I think you got to hike to the top of a mountain and to learn the difference of that one. Or you need to have a microscope. What you need, Spoon Monkey, is more than 2 years of an education in a community college like I've got.
Yeah, that'll help.
Yeah, like you guys should be. I've already been congratulated once today for making my computer work. So that's kind of what the expectation on me is. Yeah. We've got Steven over on Facebook saying, "Are there any Japanese knives in the same shape as a Chinese cleaver?" A Japanese blacksmith is going to call a Chinese cleaver a chuko bocho. So if you ever see that word, CHUKO space BOCHO, that is a Chinese cleaver. We do have some knives, like Fujiwara makes a Chinese cleaver on occasion. Moritaka does too. And I would be willing to bet that there will be Chinese cleavers that show up in the upcoming garage sale. There are always a few there. I know Tojiro they do make them. Oh, look at that. Kris is sending me a link.
I'm sending you the link. I know that Colin, our assistant manager in Calgary, is a big fan. And so he's been talking to Naoto about bringing some cool ones in. And the Sugimoto number 2, I know we have one hanging on the wall in the Edmonton shop, and it's a serious knife. It feels weird in my hand, but I really want to use it because I watch all of those kids on TikTok spinning their knives around and doing weird knife tricks with it. And
oh yeah,
I wish I was.
Yeah, that looks like fun. Yeah, they're good. I like it when they do like the super crazy, like slicing the garlic super thin. I can't do that. I'd lose a finger.
Exactly.
So, Nate is asking us, what do you prefer, a Nikiri or a Santoku, and why?
I have both, and I use them for different things. I think Santoku is more all-round. If you're only going to have one knife, have a Santoku. I like a taller Nikiri, so most of my Nikiris are much taller than a standard Santoku, which is great for doing things like cabbage and big onions when you're slicing them thin.
Or if you got big hands.
Yeah, got big hands and need clearance for the board. So I don't like one better than the other. I like them for a couple of different things.
Yeah, I like Nikiris because I own one Santoku, and it's the one that I made when I was in Japan. Yeah, I've never actually bought a Santoku before because they're just too small for me. Like, there's nothing so I like a Nikiri because they're a little more traditional. There's less overlap with my Gyuto. I'll buy a Santoku one day, but it's just one of those things that I don't know. I have it's just get me every time.
A 180 Santoku, so it's a little bit bigger than your standard Santoku from Moritaka's, and I love it because it is a tiny Gyuto is really what it is, but it's a little flatter.
Yeah, I would generally I don't know, if you only ever want one knife to do it all, get a Santoku. But if you're going to have a collection, I think a Nikir, like eventually you'll end up with both, you know, like the Santoku I have in the grand scheme of things is a big piece of shit, but I made it. So it's kind of cool, but I never use it. I look at it. I actually changed the handle on it because I didn't like the handle that they gave me to put on it, but I never use the knife.
Yeah.
Like I look at it. It's there in my kitchen. So I can tell people, because that's like not that anyone's coming over to my house these days, but people usually want to go look at the knife rack when they come over. Because there's not very much that's very interesting about me aside from my knife collection.
Yeah, no, people only want to talk food and knives with me. I have no other personality.
There's a couple of good questions here. Sergioto is saying, do we prefer AS or Aogami 2 in the Moritaka line? Suppose the AS line is better, hence more expensive, but what's my opinion on the matter? Do I like the A2 line? I own 3 knives from the A2 line. I do own one of the AS ones as well. It's just a matter of steel hardness. The AS is going to get harder than the Aogami 2, and harder for anyone who's, before we get too nerdy, harder means that the knives will get sharper and they'll stay sharper for longer. Like if you're comparing a piece of steel to your teeth, every knife is hard steel, right? But when you compare one steel to another steel, if one steel is a bit harder than the other one, well, then we can expect it to get sharper and keep its edge for longer. It's also harder to work with. It's a harder material, so they got to work with it a bit more, hence the general increase in price. I know that there was talk about, they did a couple for the last garage sale, Aogami Super with that Ishime finish, which I think is super cool. I've got a 240 Kiritsuke from them. That was like a knife that I used professionally for quite a long time, and I really kicked the crap out of it. And I will kind of want to buy a new one. I want to buy like a new one of the same thing, but I might wait until I see an Ishime with Aogami Super.
Well, and don't they say that the A2, when it's done Ishime style, because they have to hit it more with a hammer to make it look like that, they get a little bit more performance than out of just a regular A2?
Yeah, Kevin's always said that the edge retention is better. Like they they squeak out more edge retention because of the cold hammering. Go ahead.
AS Hanazuki, but I've used the Ishime A2 Hanazuki a lot, and I haven't noticed a lot of edge retention difference. So I think it's probably true that they do get a little bit more out of the A2 just by banging it a little more to make it look Ishime.
Yeah. So that has to do with the step. And again, like, let's not go too crazy on this particular topic because I'm very quickly approaching deep water for myself. Yeah. But there's this, when you're making a knife, there's a step that comes after heat treating called annealing. And annealing is essentially like when you rest a steak. Okay. So if like you've hammered a knife all to bits, it's in and out of the coals, it's in the water, you just let it rest to kind of, because there's going to be a lot of internal stresses and molecular movement within the steel. So you let it sit there for a little while. And lots of people have different ways of doing it, of kind of getting that internal stress out. I know, I know that in like Onru likes to put it in like almost like a hot box, like if you worked in a restaurant. I know that Fujiwara puts it in a vat of like motor oil that's just kept at a particular temperature. The Moritakas hammer them. They cold hammer them to kind of get some of those. It's the same, like I said, it's like if you compare it to resting a steak, you take a steak right off the grill, 90% of the people watching this are going to know that, and you just go to slice, it's going to lose all the juice, right? So it's kind of the same idea. There's just like movement going on within it that you can't really see, and it allows you to get a little bit more out of it if you treat it properly. I do not know how to pronounce your name. Hovhannes, maybe it's like Johannes, I don't know. What is the difference between a Teriyasu Fujiwara Mabaroshi and Nishiji lines? Both are made from white number 2, trying to get an answer, but haven't found any complete or a detailed answer yet. There's one major difference between the two. It's that Fujiwara purchases the steel that a Nishiji is made out of. So he gets on the phone, calls up a supplier, says, I want white number 1, jacketed in stainless. The Mabaroshi is the same materials, stainless steel, white carbon number 1, and stainless steel, like a little sandwich, but he puts it together himself. So even though they're made out of the same materials, more work and effort goes into the Mabaroshis, which produce a knife that is going to get sharper and keep its edge for longer. So it's essentially, you buy a piece of steel, you hammer something that's about, I don't know, little over a centimeter into something knife-sized. But when you start with 3 pieces of steel and you have to hammer it into something knife-sized, everything is a lot denser, and therefore the steel is a lot harder. So that's the big secret right there. It's also, his level of involvement too, right? Like, it's almost like it's a scale, right? It's the Nishijis, the Mabaroshis, and the Denkas.
Yeah.
He's much more hands-on with the Denkas than he is the Mabaroshis, and Mabaroshis and the Nishijis. Sorry, I'm having a hard time speaking today.
Okay, you sound authoritative. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I was very. Well, that's all part of the plan, right?
Yeah. I
don't want anyone to ask me a question that's too hard.
That's fair.
But I was very lucky when I got. So Kris has been to Japan. He got to go on the trip before I went, and so he got to hang out with the Moritakas. And did you see Takeda?
I did not see Takeda.
Yeah. So you got to hang out with the Moritakas, but I got to hang out with Fujiwara.
Yeah.
So, and it's always like, because Kevin would normally in a year, he would go twice a year, and you don't go to see everybody at the same time.
Impossible. There's too much travel.
It'd be too hard. Yeah. So he usually splits it up where he hits like, he sees the Moritakas in the spring, and then he sees he'll see like Fujiwara and the folks in like that pocket of Japan in the fall. I was also lucky. I got to go to Shikoku Island. I'm the only one who got to go and meet Kagura. So that was pretty cool. If I slide through the Ted, I don't know what I did there. I already answered that question. Ted is saying, as the knives we sell are handmade, they'll all be different to each other, even within the same manufacturer. That is 100% true. That's one of the fun parts about being able to come into the stores, if you're able to, is if you've gone through, like, say I'm buying a knife from Kris and we decide I'm going to buy a Sasame Nakiri. Well, if he's got more than one Sasame Nakiri in stock, I get to pick them all up and pick out which one's mine. It's kind of like, and we joke about it, but it's kind of like that scene in the first Harry Potter movie where he's in the wand store. And it's just one of them speaks to you. There's always something about one that you prefer to the others. I generally tell people, don't overthink it too much. Kind of just go with your gut. But it's a fun part of the process,
I had a lady yesterday that was buying a Sugimori Nakiri, and we had 2 of them in the shop. And you put them down on the mat side by side, and they look exactly the same until you actually look at it. And the Damascus pattern on them was one was super tight and really kind of curly, and the other one was like big and loose, and she was like, well, how am I supposed to pick now? And it almost got to the point where I was going to hide them behind my back so she could just.
I've done that before. I've told people pick them up with your eyes closed. My favorite like cheeky trick is a coin toss, and I just tell them, I said, no matter how this goes, I flip a coin, and heads you get this one, tails you get that one. And there you flip it, and then you say, okay, heads. They're like, aw. And then it's like, well, buy the other one then. Like, it's an easy decider for people.
Yeah.
We were asked if we could share the bread knife information again. For sure. Here, let me pop that up. This is the bread knife that Kris and I were talking about. It's coming from Tojiro. Should be a couple of options there when you look at that. Kevin is already causing trouble.
Yep.
I'm just not there yet. You know, there's a lot of great questions. So,
and then there's Kevin's questions that we can just ignore.
Yeah, and every time he sends a question, it sets me back. You know, I'm trying to like get back to where I was. Holy moly, we're actually quite a bit behind in our questions. We've got a couple people asking about garage sales, so I'll get to that. Going through some people's first knives. Ted bought a 10-inch Henkel Professional. I think that's a first knife for a lot of people.
Yep.
Blank was the Victorinox Santoku that they had ruined with the belt sander. I remember you telling me about that.
Oh.
Nate's first Japanese knife was a Miyabi Kaizen 5 1/4 inch utility knife, and the second was an 8-inch Miyabi Birchwood chef's knife.
Nice.
Ted's first Japanese knife was a Global Petty, and their first handmade was a Moritaka 240 Gyuto. How do we feel about Kurosaki stealing our logo? Well, that's not, I wouldn't say. I'm seeing it there on Chris's shirt. It's got a, you know what, when there's only so many things.
A knife looks like a knife.
You know,
yeah.
So.
A knife looks like a knife.
So there's, we can't really get too crazy about that. I do not know what's happening. Someone has gone, and I might have lost some questions here because
if we don't get to them, people should just.
And it's mostly Kevin's shenanigans. It's making things go crazy over here.
Well, and he apparently just wants to talk about getting naked with us. So. Yeah,
Nate has asked, "What is the garage sale?" So this is, if you're new to Knifewear, the garage sale is a pretty big deal around here for us.
The most fun time of the year.
It's the most, so the garage sale happens twice a year. Okay, we always have one in the spring, usually in the week leading up to the May long weekend. And then we have one in the fall in November. Excuse me. One in November, usually within the first week or so of November. Usually, like, tends to, like, my dad's birthday usually falls in the middle of garage sale, so I have to miss dinner once or twice. But what happens is, we're talking about Kevin traveling to Japan, right? Kevin goes to Japan a couple times a year. This year was different. Didn't get to go, so he traveled via Zoom. But you go to hang out and meet the blacksmiths, see some new stuff that they're making. Maybe they got a buddy who makes some cool stuff and they're trying to get them in with us, that kind of thing. So the garage sale is our big sale of the year, happens twice a year, and it's all about stuff we don't normally have. So there's always great, like, budget stuff. There's always, like, cool prototypes, like a lot of these cool finishes that you see coming from Kurosaki. Those started off as garage sale knives. The Masashi Kuroshu and the Shiroshu started off as garage sale knives. Just them kind of screwing around, finding something new to do, which I think is a lot of fun. You know, so it's something like, if you're looking for something special and you want to, you're looking for something special, you're looking for something different, garage sale's a good time to visit. Same if you're doing, you want something, maybe you're looking for something on a budget, garage sale's a great time. It used to be like a huge thing in the stores. We'd have a big lineup out the door and whatnot. It's kind of gone a little bit towards the like the website has kind of scooped it up quite a bit. So now it's just like, it's still in the store, but it's also a big event online. We've opened it up to all of our customers. So
speaking of garage sale stuff, Blank was asking about that giant Nakiri thing. I think he means the Tajiro large multi-purpose Nakiri. I sent you the link there if you want to put it in the chat.
That in the chat there.
He also asked what we would use it for. And I know that Kasumi had one that she used to use just to cut pizza with. So that would be a good choice. It is. Yeah, it's a 345 mil. Like, it is. That's a big knife. So when I look at a knife like that and people say, what would you use it for? I kind of go, whatever you want. And you got a knife like that.
AJ is asking, being former cooks, do we like to grow the foods that we eat? I have tried many times in my life to keep a garden, and I just can't do it. I've got a dog because she barks when she gets hungry.
Yeah.
Tomato plants, they tend to die. I even tried this year. I tried just having like a pot of herbs, and I killed all those. Like I do not have a green thumb. My dad does a lot of gardening, but
I can't. I had somebody give me a cactus as a gift once, and they told me, "Don't worry, you can't kill it." Yeah. I killed it.
We've got Edgar is asking if we were to collect knives, what blacksmith should be in your collection? That's a good question.
That is you got to have a Fujiwara. You got to have a Masashi. You got to have a Moritaka.
Yeah.
You got to have.
You have to have a 240 Takeda. Yeah,
240 and everything else. One from everybody at Masakage.
Yeah, yeah. If you can get one from Ken Kagura when they roll around, a Hinora. You know what? That's a pretty open-ended question. We're going to tell you that you need one each. And that's kind of because that's maybe to tie it into top 10 questions asked at Knifewear, which we haven't actually talked about at all yet.
No, we haven't done that at all. But
that is something that a lot of people will ask: is do we have, do I need to like? They're always concerned, like, will you still have this down the road? Because people want to build out a set. And I was like that. When I bought that Global, I was like, I wanted to have one of everything before I bought something different. And it was dumb. It didn't work. Like I ended up with like some stupid flexible fillet knife that I only ever used once. Yeah. The stuff that I just didn't like. But it's okay to have knives from different people. It's okay to just, if you want to build out a set, you can do that too. That's not like I'm not going to give you a hard time over that. Just not how I go about it.
No, I'm a big fan of the mix and match. I equate it to you're buying art, and you can hang the same artist on every wall in your house, but I think it gets a little bit mundane. So I want to see different things.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got a good customer here in Ottawa. His name's Derek. Derek lives about 2 hours away, and he is always asking, like, how is this knife different from the things I own? Yeah. So like, is there like does this particular blacksmith have a certain style that they like to do? The geometry of the knife a little bit different? Like, it's an interesting way to think about it. Some people just go nuts. We've got other customers who are like, fuck, I don't care. I just want something new and pretty. And that's fine too. Like whatever whatever floats your boat, just go for it. When is the next garage sale? Yeah, there's a few people who've asked about garage sale. So the next garage sale is going to be it's very likely going to be in May. I haven't heard anything contrary to this. And it's usually the week leading up to the May long weekend. Okay. So I'm going to get a calendar and I'm going to just make a guess here. I don't know how to use my phone, so give me a second. And I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see anything. So May long weekend
is the 22nd, 24th.
Yeah, so the Victoria Day is going to be on the 24th. So presumably the Knifewear Spring Garage Sale will start on May 17th. If that changes, you'll know before I do because you'll get an email. Yeah. Or we'll all know at the same time, essentially. But based on past years, that's the idea. Nate is asking about a Kiritsuke versus a chef's knife. They are similar. I would say depending on who makes it. Like if you put a Moritaka Gyuto versus a Kiritsuke, you're going to find the Kiritsuke has a much flatter profile. And it's going to lend itself better to that kind of push-pull chopping. It's not going to rock chop very well. A Gyuto would be better for that. If you get a Masashi Kiritsuke, it's just the tip is a little bit different than on a Gyuto. It's not as big of a difference. But a Kiritsuke, traditionally speaking, not the way it is these days, traditionally speaking, is a single bevel knife that is kind of like a cross between an Asuba and a Yanagiba. It's a little bit taller than a Yanagiba, but it's still long, usually around 210, 240. But it's maybe a half an inch taller than a Yanagiba. So if you had little hands, you could use it as a chef's knife. But it's meant to be a little bit more all-purpose. But I would say from your perspective, Nate, just kind of based on what I know you're looking for, It's largely interchangeable with few exceptions.
Yeah.
Spoon Monkey is asking, why are white #1 knives seemingly so rare? I don't know.
I don't have a good. I saw that one, and I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah, I think it's you know what? It's maybe a safe guess. It's just a matter of manufacturing, right? Like most blacksmiths they're not mixing up their own steel. Like Bob Kramer does that in the States, but that's like part of the reason why his knives cost $20,000 each. I think it's just a matter of who's making what. The fun fact about the naming of the steels, and it took me a while to realize it, but it's called white and blue because of the type of paper that the steel comes wrapped in. There's nothing blue about the steel at all. It's just it's called, so aogami means blue paper and shirogami means white paper, and it's what they ship it in that gives it that name. So I thought that was kind of fun.
I like that.
Sergiotto is asking, how does it feel to cut with the Mabaroshi in comparison to the Denka? Is there a difference to the grind geometry thickness, or is it just the difference of the steel W1 versus AS? I would say that the fit and finish, the general overall feel of both is going to be very, very similar. Denkas tend to be a little bit thinner because you can make them thinner, but the biggest difference is in the sharpness, you know? It has more to do with the materials than the rest of it. Like a Mabaroshi is still top to bottom an awesome knife with a ton of attention to detail, but it's a matter of the core steel.
It's just not going to stay as sharp as long.
Yeah, yeah. And Ellie, who runs our website, says that like when you cut with the Mabaroshi, sometimes if you listen really closely, it says, you should have bought a Denka.
It's true. It does say that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's roll through here a little bit. Kevin says, do people actually put towels on their heads in the onsen? Can you tell us about onsens in Japan? Well, let me see if I got any knife questions first, because people probably don't want me to talk about being naked with my friends.
I don't think you had to be naked with him as much as I did. I swear I was naked with him every day I was in Japan.
Yeah, and then Kevin asked if the fire department came or if I cut an onion in properly yet. Now we're going through.
Too bad he doesn't have better things to do on holiday.
Something has happened here where these questions are on loop. Like I've scrolled through the same questions like 13 times. Kris, what is one of the top 10 asked questions in the store?
It's funny. I made a list of top 10 questions asked in the store, and a lot of the questions are very specific. And I feel like most of the people watching will even know the answers. But it's why are Japanese knives better? And that, I mean, I always answer the same way. It's the steel. It's harder steel. You can make it sharper. It's going to stay sharper longer. Yeah. I actually pulled some of the staff here and in Vancouver and Calgary for questions that might be a little more interesting than just the regular ones. And Owen in Vancouver made me laugh out loud yesterday when I was talking to him on the phone, because he said his favorite question he gets is, what makes these knives Japanese? He says he often just answers their parents.
That's a good answer.
Which I think is pretty funny, because I think the real answer is that it's because they're from Japan and made in Japan out of Japanese steel, like Japanese blacksmiths is what makes them Japanese.
Well, and they've got like the cool thing about Japan is like they have the whole, like the sword culture went into the knife culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like Fujiwara, for instance, him and his father were sword makers before they were kitchen knife makers. Same thing with the Moritakas. Like they can trace their family back to.
I got to play with their swords. It was awesome.
Yeah, see, that's cool. That's cool. But so like there's just a lot to it. Like, yeah, we can focus on a ton of different stuff, right? Like a Moritaka's got a hell of a lot more romance to it than a Wusthof ever will.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing to compare. Like it's, a factory full of robots made one knife and an old man and his family made the other one.
Yeah.
Like that's, I don't know, there's something to that.
And they've been doing it for 28 generations, 29 generations, whatever they're at now.
Yeah. or then like, okay, so we don't care about storytelling. Well, maybe we care about how cool they look.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe you don't care about how cool they look. We can talk about how awesome they perform and what they're made out of. Right. So there's a ton of reasons as to why we care that they're from Japan. Right.
Exactly.
Everest pointed out, I think Everest is one of us. I picked a knife once solely based on how precisely the maker's mark engraving was done. One looked like it was done at the start of the day, and the other at the end of the day when they retired. Good chance.
Add some Masashis to your collection if you like the maker's mark being perfect, because that dude is an amazing engraver.
Yeah. Oh, we've gotten to the point where I put in. Oh my God, I think we're almost there. I think I've almost made it to.
I'm trusting you. I can't scroll back.
Oh, Kevin or Don asked Kevin if he's safe making cutting remarks, and Nate pipes up, "They need a nice dinner, Kevin. Come on." Nate is asking about pricing during garage sale, which I think is a fair question.
I always describe it the same way. It's not so much that whatever knife is in the garage sale was price X yesterday and we reduced it and then it's going to go back up. It's that this knife didn't exist last week. It's only here for the garage sale. And we've priced it in a way that we don't really want to have it here next week because I don't have room in the store.
Yeah. You know what it is? Garage sale is like record store day. Right. So record store day is something that occurs if you don't listen to much music or you don't like vinyls or any, like, then just find something else to do for the next 45 seconds. But record store day exists because it's all about re-releasing old albums. It's all about special edition picture discs, or maybe, a lot of bands just produce something special now for record store day, and that's what garage sale is. It's not about things becoming cheaper. That's part of it, but it's more about all the special cool stuff, right? So it's kind of, you'll find something, to be perfectly honest, Nate, you'll find something that's a hell of a lot like something that we already sell, and it's going to be cheaper. But it's not, but like Kris said, it's like a lot of these products didn't exist yesterday, but we have them today. So... yeah, Ted is saying, wow, just to cut pizza, talking about that gigantic Nakiri. There's a bit of a story to that. That's, maybe it's my place to tell. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But what happened was Kevin had the knife. Now, the one that Kevin had was handmade by Onru, and it was a joke. Kevin's a big guy. Like, Kevin's taller than I am, but we're similar stature otherwise. But the big joke is he always goes to Japan and he's asking for knives to get bigger, right? Like, he wants a Nakiri, but he wants it to be bigger because he's got big mitts. So Onru kept interpreting bigger as longer. So he eventually made, what Kevin meant was bigger. He doesn't want to hit his knuckles on the cutting board, but Onru heard bigger as being longer. So he kept making them longer and longer and longer. So what happened is he makes him this Nakiri. Kevin has it. One day it goes missing. Turned out that Kasumi, the manager of the Calgary store, took it home, and it's what she used to cut her pizza, because Kasumi is a great cook.
Yeah,
makes all kinds of stuff at home. So, but yeah, she took this like one of a kind handmade Nikiris, and that's what she used to cut up her pepperoni pizza. So, but yeah, Don has one. Don has one of the Tojiro ones. Oh, Maxim has a good point. Let's just leave that up for a second. Trap Kevin into talking about knives. Not a bad idea.
No, that's not a bad idea.
Spoon Monkey.
I would trade onsen stories about Kevin for him to talk about knives.
Yeah. Yeah. The one time so an onsen, for those of you who do not know, an onsen is the kind of the public baths in Japan. It's the real ones are attached to it's like a natural steam vent. Yeah, it's a hot spring. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a hot spring, right? So there's some geothermal activity going in. It heats up the water and it bubbles, and it's supposed to be really good for you, right? Like the minerals in the water and all of that. But it's a part of Japanese culture, and it's not a weird thing there. Whereas here, we're a bunch of prudes and so on. But I remember Kevin telling me, he described it to me as, and it was a point. I got to a point where that's when I thought he was pulling my leg. So the idea is you go into the onsen and you have to, everyone, you're naked. Okay. And they give you this towel that's really this as big as this. Not even really.
No, that's a big one.
That's a big one. Yeah. Yours is better. So it's more like this size. That it's about that size. And you use that as kind of, you cover yourself up just so like
it's a shame cloth.
So no one's blatantly staring at you. And you use that when you're kind of moving around. And you got to sit down in this one area and you get you got to get super clean before you get into the tub because you don't want to bring your dirt in and get everyone else, So you get, and there's like a bit of a show of it. You got to get suds up real big and like lots of bubbles. And it was actually pretty, I was hammered. So I thought it was great. But then, so Kevin's describing this process to me and then you use this cloth and you just kind of hold it over your privates and while you're walking around. I don't know what the grown-up version of privates is. I felt like I was talking to children there. Because I know I know a lot of things I shouldn't say.
Yeah.
But but then you're walking around, you got your arses hanging out, but you're covering up in the front. And but when you get into the pool, you take your towel and you fold it because you don't want to get your towel wet. You fold it up and then you sit it on top of your head while you're sitting in the hot tub with your friends. That was the part where I thought Kevin was full of shit. And I called him a liar. And I didn't think about it again for 3 or 4 months until I was there and saw everybody doing it. My first reaction was, oh, wow, Kevin told the truth. It was, how the hell did he get all these people in on this? So...
Your onsen experience, I love that story. But my first big bath, as we called it when we were in Japan, was very intimate because we stayed at a little guest house in Yatsushiro, where the Moritakas are from, and we went out for dinner after the first night. And then Kevin was like, "I had the owner pour the bath." I'm like, "What do you mean pour the bath?" He's like, "Well, it's kind of just like a hot tub." And I got there last, and I'm the little guy, and I'm not tiny, but Kevin was already in the bath, and Visti was already in the bath, and it was overflowing. Yeah. And when I got in, it was my left leg pressed up against the inside of Kevin's one thigh, and my right leg pressed up against the side of Visti's other thigh. And I was really happy when Kevin handed me the bottle of sake and said, "We're not supposed to drink in here, but I brought this."
Yeah, you kind of need that just to.
It was cozy. It was cozy.
Well, now we can stop talking about being naked.
Yeah.
So, because no one really wants to think about that, I don't think. But we do have some knife questions. Spoon Monkey, this was on my list. Do you ever get the, wow, these are way too expensive, I'm just going to get one from the supermarket, it'll be just as good? And you know what the best answer to that is? Well, a car is a car. Why buy a Ferrari if a Corolla will do? Why do these other things exist, right? Like there's levels of quality. That is something that comes up. But you know what? That's why we've got tomatoes and potatoes in the store. Because the easiest way to combat that attitude of, wow, they're expensive, just use one.
Yeah.
And even if that doesn't automatically make money appear in your pocket where you could just well, I must have one right now. But at least it changes your way of thinking, right? Because a lot of us, Kris and myself spent years as a cook. A lot of people just cook at home. A lot of people don't know better. They don't know that something better exists. So sometimes the easiest way is to just try it, right? Sergio,
I always justify the dollar amount too, Lordy, by breaking it down to how much are you going to use it? Because a $350 knife, if you make dinner every day, is $1 a meal for a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once you put that into context for people, and then you tell them they're going to have the knife for 25 years.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier.
Just kind of to keep with that vein, you don't mind spending a couple $1,000 on a snowblower when you can spend 20 on a shovel. And you don't use that. You don't even use that year round. Right.
I never get to use mine because my neighbor's too nice. It beats me to using it. I miss using my snowblower.
I still do a shit job of shoveling my driveway because I still think I have a 4-wheel drive truck, but I don't. I drive a dumb little sedan, and I scrape the bottom out at the end of my driveway every day.
I've got a retired neighbor, and it doesn't matter how much it snows. He's out there with his snowblower before I am, and it's all done. And I just say thanks.
Sergioto, is the Shibata Kobunka the equivalent of the Kamigata that you guys developed with the Takafu gang? Not quite. It's actually a fair bit shorter. I think I have a Kamigata. I'll go get one just so you can kind of
go get one. Kamigata is much taller than the Shibata Kobunka, and it's much more kind of rounded on the edge, whereas the Kobunka has a really kind of pronounced tip on it. Hopefully, Lordy can pull one out of the drawer for you guys to see.
Yeah, we got a Koishi one here.
There we go.
So this is a Kamigata. Okay. Now, while this is not made, this is not the Kotetsu Kobunka, but it's very similar in dimensions.
Yeah.
You can just kind of see the difference, right? It's not quite as tall. I'm trying to do this without scratching everything to bits. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, this guy is like, one's quite a bit taller than the other one. Oh, hello. It's a couple people on Instagram saying hi. If you want to get the other half of the conversation on Instagram, head over to YouTube or Facebook. Just look for Knifewear on YouTube and Facebook, and you'll see the other half of the conversation. It's much more interesting than me sitting on a stool.
They probably don't want to see my face.
No, well, they've stuck around looking at me. So, but yeah, so there is a bit of a difference. You know, I would say that the usage is very similar, but I would say that a Kamigata is more like a Nikiri, and a Kobunka is like a itty bitty Santoku.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Victor. I remember Victor. Victor's just saying hi. Yes, Victor was here the day that Shibata-san and Ikeda and Kato were here.
Oh, and he got a tank.
He got one of the first tanks.
Nice.
So I remember that day very vividly because we had 3 tanks made it to Ottawa. I sold 2 of them the day that Shibata was in the store. The other one stuck around for 3 or 4 days. It wasn't like it used to be. You know, or sorry, like these days, like tanks, a huge waiting list. If you want one, you got to get on the list and you got to jump on it as soon as you get the email. It's a whole production now if you want one of those knives. But I remember that 3rd one was in the store, Kris, and I told myself, I'm like, I really like that knife. I'll wait till payday. I waited till payday, but we had sold it the day before, and we have not had one come into the store since.
Yeah.
Such a pain.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have a bidding war the first day that we, when Shibata and the rest of the guys were here. My buddy Jay has one, and every time I see him, I'm jealous.
Sergioto had a quick response about the carbon steel. Took it out of Kevin's book. Not a lot of people work with it. Because it's harder to work with because of the quenching and handling of the steel, and not many people are up to the challenge. So that's a good no.
Means that we should read the book more often.
Means I should read the book again. I read it once, and then
I just opened the front cover because my picture's there, and that's my favorite.
Yeah, I know. I show that part too because I got my hands are in it. Lorenzo is. Okay, so Lorenzo, I was emailing with Lorenzo the other day. We were trying to figure out what kind of Hanazuki they wanted. Curious about stabilized wood. Stabilized wood, Lorenzo, and I'm hoping that if I'm wrong, Kris will pipe in, is when you take a piece of wood, in this case maple, and you kind of, you jack it up with some like epoxy. You kind of fill in the holes and whatnot. You kind of submerge it in the epoxy, and it all kind of seeps in. And now you've got something that it's not going to swell. It's not going to shrink. It's going to just kind of stay put. That might not be how they do it, but
it's very, yes. The word they use is impregnate.
Oh,
Yeah. And I don't know if it's exactly like epoxy, but they submerge it in a material and it absorbs into the wood and it just kind of sets so that it's not going to shift on you. Yeah.
So a lot of those funky handles that we've been getting in from Real Sharp Knife, and you see them on the Kobayashis in the last garage sale. And Kevin has one that he shows off quite a bit. That's a stabilized wood. It's just a wood that's kind of been treated in a way so that it's gonna. There's like a kid running around in the apartment above the store. I keep looking up like I think so.
I thought you were playing the drums.
No, it's just some crazy kid. Like, listen to him. That was one of my kids. Oh yeah. So that's what it is. It's a piece of wood that they've treated. It's much more durable. It's not going to shrink or swell. They're like damn near indestructible. So that's a good question. That's a first for that one. What do we got? How did we build up the sharpening business? Oh, that's a good question for Kevin. But I've got some stuff to talk about because we did some pretty weird stuff here in Ottawa when I took over. Is my understanding that when Knifewear got started, it was Kevin would only have like a dozen knives or so at a time, and he'd stick them in a backpack and he'd ride his bike to restaurants and sell knives. People would call him and say, "Hey, can you bring over some knives?" or "We want you to come sharpen." So he would just kind of go around. So Kevin was a chef like us before. And so a lot of it was kind of, word of mouth, friends of friends, that kind of thing. These other questions are going to vary because Kris is in a different part of the country than I am. We would do something in Ottawa called guerrilla sharpening, which was I would phone a chef that I knew and tell them, "Oh, hey, Mike, I'm going to be over to the restaurant in about 45 minutes and sharpen your cook's knives, and I will stay so long as you give me beer."
We did a lot of that too.
Yeah, a little bit of community outreach. We do tend to get more non-Japanese knives than Japanese knives because not everybody, if everybody on earth had a Japanese knife or two, Knifewear might not be needed.
Yeah, we do a lot of Western knives for people.
Well, I always tell people too that if you use a knife, it should be sharp. It doesn't have to be fancy. Lots of people come into the store and they say, "Oh, I don't know if this is worth." Maybe that should have been one of my top 10 questions. I don't know.
Is it worth sharpening it? Yeah.
Is it worth sharpening it? And it's like, well, you know what? If you use it a lot and it costs you $10, wouldn't you rather it work the way you want it to work? Because I still have we're all about Japanese knives for sure, but I won't lie to you. I do have like that old Sinelli that I got from culinary school. And if I need to cut a lobster in half, that's what I use. If I'm prying apart frozen burger patties that are I'm not grabbing my Denka and doing that. There's a reason. I never tell people to throw away the old one. You got a use for it. Shit, sharpen it up and give it to a women's shelter or something.
We actually, if people are trying to get rid of old knives, we'll take them off their hands and sharpen them up. And we have a couple of different charities here that we've donated knives to.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that. We also do a lot of, so we work with a charity here called Operation Come Home, which I'll talk about a little more detail a little later on. We've got they've got a big fundraising thing about to kick off, and I'm going to get real hungry while I'm doing it. But we'll often just call them and be like, "Look, I got a new guy. We need some knives to practice on." We've also got a great Italian deli on the corner here in Nicastros, and I'll go over and be like, "Hey, Mickey, give me 4 of your cheese knives. I'll sharpen them for you." And I just want to get something for the new guy to practice on, right? Nate's asking, what is your favorite knife and what is the most expensive knife you have bought and why did you buy it?
Ooh. I don't know which one is the most expensive. Probably my Denka. I've never gone crazy, but I've got a few that are in that $600 to $800 range.
Yeah. I've got a couple of those too. I think that's the most I've ever. My Denka Nikiri is the most I've ever spent on a knife. And they're
my Kagura 240 is probably up there. I don't remember what that was.
I don't remember how much.
I just knew I had to have it, so I didn't ask.
I did the same thing. And I just told Kate what I wanted. I said, I want the heaviest one that's there. I don't remember how much those cost. Shit, we both have the same knife and neither knows how much it costs.
No.
We might have a problem.
No. My most recent expensive one was my 150 mil Fujin Petty from Kurosaki with a sexy blue handle on it.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what? If for some reason, like if a river jump came through the store and for some reason it lasted, I would buy that. I would easily spend the 1700 on a river jump. They're just super exclusive. And here's the thing. I never would have bought one when I first started working here because I didn't understand them. But I've since used Kevin's, or like, because I remember there's a Santoku in the Calgary store, and I used it, and then I was like, I get it now.
Now I get it.
It's not just pretty; it's really fucking awesome.
Did you go visit Hinora when you were in Japan?
I did, yeah. So,
when I went into his sharpening room, that completely changed my perception of everything about sharpening and Japanese knives, and I've wanted one ever since. When
we went to visit Hinora, they were doing photos for the book, and so they had kind of put like a bunch of the extra flux and whatnot on to make more sparks when they go to hit it, so the camera would pick it up. And I was standing over in a safe spot, and just as he was about to hit it with the hammer, Kevin pushed me right in front of him and burnt holes in my clothes. And I didn't like. I had a backpack worth of clothes. You know, like
I have a video that's very shaky because I'm holding the phone like this, and you can hear me going ow, 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 because it was the same thing except it was Masashi who like grinned at me and just turned the bucket of flux upside down on this hot knife before he started pounding it. And he's in shirt sleeves, just looking at me like you are. If you look in the book, the picture of him in the book is literally. I have the video of that picture being taken.
Nice. Mike Wrench says Kevin and I saw a Tanuki on the last visit. He ran into the onsen. Oh, okay, that picture, yeah.
Yeah, I'm standing over to the side. And there was a lot of sparks. Man knows how to put on a show.
Our friend Hovhannes, if there are no new questions here, who knows what kind of answer we'll get. If you had to choose between Moritaka, Onru, Takeda, and Fujiwara AS steel, which blacksmith would you choose and why? And what is your beloved steel and why? I think Kris and I both like Algami Super, I think, as a favorite. The last couple knives I've bought for myself have been stainless because I've got 3 kids. I'm the only person in a house of 5 who gives a shit about the knives. Everybody else is like, even like 2 days ago, I came home and the conversation was, oh shit, you're here already, eh? And it was because like my mirrored Masashi had been used to cut a Delissio pizza, and it was dirty on the counter. You know, like so I have a lot of stainless steel, but I prefer Algami Super. Like I like sharpening it, I like using it, but the less fussy stainlesses are a lot better for my day-to-day life right now.
Yeah, I've been using a lot of high speed powdered stainless at home, but AS is my favorite. And Kevin just put it in the chat that his favorite is Fujiwara, and I would have to agree.
I would say so too. There's something like the Algami Super and the Fujiwara Denka is just that much more than from anyone else, and I think that's largely because he's doing that forge welding in house. He's kind of really dialed in the process. It's kind of, Kevin often refers to, you could give each of these guys, so like, you know, we've got 4 blacksmiths named there, but let's like pretend about making bread, right? You could get Kevin, Kris, myself, and then I don't know, some super fancy French baker, flour, water, yeast, and salt, and we'll all make something different. We'll all make a good loaf of bread, but the guy who does it every single day is going to make the best one, right? So that's kind of, he just gets a little bit more out of the same material. Yeah, I believe he's also choosier. about the steel itself. Like he's found one that he likes. That's all he uses. He puts it together himself in-house. He's just kind of taking a little more control over what's going on, right? So Steve Mattingly is saying so many things impact the characteristics of a knife, such as grind, spine thickness, bevel taper from choil to tip, etc. Other than using a knife, how can you get a feel for how the knife shots on the website reflect how a knife will cut? Unfortunately, we can't all visit a great knife shop like yours. Steve, the best advice I can give you is, oh, yes, I am live. Sorry, everyone over here. On Instagram, we are on YouTube and Facebook as well. So if you went to knifewear.com/YouTube, you would see a little bloop, a little picture on there that says, you know, live now or something like that, and you'd get the other half of the conversation as well. Yeah, thanks for asking. It's hard to tell, right? It's hard to tell exactly how a knife is going to feel or whatnot until you actually do hold on to it or until you do use it. But one thing that I encourage lots of our online customers is to ask questions and send emails to hello@knifewear.com, because what we can do is find the knife in the company, take some really detailed shots. We could put you on Zoom or get you on the phone with the person holding on to the knife, and you could ask whatever questions you want. It is hard. We are working on kind of building out the descriptions of knives and to get some of that information as to spine thickness and so on and so forth. It just takes a lot. It takes a lot of time to measure a bunch. Because even like someone had mentioned earlier, you know, like let's say it's a 210 Masakage Koishi Gyuto. Well, you get two of them, and like one's going to be like 2.5 millimeters thick. The other one's going to be 3. So we kind of got it. Like there's a lot of work to go into it. It says something that we're working on. But for the time being, I regularly take photos of knives where I measure things out for people. If you're looking for something in particular, like let's just say, oh, I'd love to have a Denka Nakiri, but I want to make sure that the grind is the certain, like, you know, I want one with a thicker handle, thinner handle, heavier near the front, whatever. We take those kind of comments seriously, and we will work to find the best one that suits the criteria you've given.
I've also searched in the store over FaceTime with people, and we can pull stuff up.
I've done that
or
too.
I can pull demos off the wall and actually slice things in front of you and kind of show you how they perform. We'll go to the ends of the earth to make sure that you get the right one.
Yeah. Oh, Mike here is saying you're junk. That must be the adult version of me saying you're privates. So I'll know for next time.
There you go.
Nate is asking Kevin, why did he create Knifewear? I'm pretty sure Kevin
couldn't get a job.
I'm pretty sure he got fired from his last job. That's what he told. You know?
Which is basically how I ended up here too.
Yeah, I didn't get fired, but I did go crazy.
Yeah. Probably would have if you'd lasted a little longer.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you know. Everest is asking, what's your favorite maker's mark? His vote or their vote is for Takeda. That's a neat one. Because some blacksmiths do it differently, right? Like Masashi, like it's all engraved. All the Masakage ones, they're engraved by hand. I know Takeda, Fujiwara, Moritaka, they use stamps. Like they've got like almost like and they hammer it in there. That's a good question. There's a really, here, I'm going to get a really cool knife. It's kind of a smart ass answer. I'm going to think about that a little more.
Do you have a Masashi? Because his strange little characters.
I really like. I grabbed this one though.
Oh yeah,
the Dragon Deba.
Yeah, that's not.
But that's kind of that's a bit of a
that's over the top.
That's a little over the top. You know, I'm not normally one to go over the top.
Good. Nate, I'm just looking at the top question because that's all I can see while you're hunting there. And Nate asked who the most famous Russian person that's bought a knife for me is, and I think the most famous person that's bought a knife for me is Kris Lord.
Yeah.
He's a YouTube sensation.
Yeah, I'm a YouTube star. You know what? There's a lot of people who've come across Kris Lord. Most people tend to. Yeah, I agree with you, Kris. I like that really old, that Masashi. Masashi does a good one. That's that's the official Kris and Kris answer right there. Yeah, you know what? A lot of, I tend to not, I'm not very shy, and I tend to speak loudly. So a lot of people have come across me.
You're recognizable because of that.
Maybe I'm the most famous. I've sold a couple of knives to Mark McEwen.
He's pretty famous.
He's pretty famous. He's also very, very nice. Not unlike, actually, so the first time I met him was when I just got hired. We went to do terroir in Toronto. And I met another famous chef that day, and I don't really want to talk about it because I thought he was an asshole. But I met a lot of famous. I met a lot of famous chefs that day. Only one of them was an asshole. But then, yeah, so I met Chef McEwen. He came up. We had a good chat. He bought a Moritaka 240 Kiritsuke because it's the same knife that I've got. And then when Megan and I went to Toronto that was, I guess, 6 years ago now. When we were in Toronto last, they were filming Top Chef Canada in the Stack Container Market where we were doing our pop-up. And he came over and he recognized me. He asked how I'd been doing, told me that he still loved the knife. We had like a full-blown conversation 5 years after the fact, and I just sold him something one day. I was really impressed. I thought he was a classy guy.
That's nice. We had a guy in the shop one day that we all thought was super famous because these 3 gentlemen with earpieces in, wearing black suits came in, and they said, we just need to clear the store. And they posted one guy by the back door and one guy by the front door, and the other guy went out and got this guy out of an SUV, and he came in and he looked around a little bit, and he didn't end up buying anything, but they left. And then the next day, same guy walks into the store, but he doesn't have any security detail with him. And we're like, what's the deal? Who are you? And he's like, oh, I teach guys how to do security. So we were just running a drill. He wasn't anybody.
That's fine. You know who
we're all real excited, but we couldn't figure out who it was.
If you guys follow Jugmeat Singh on Instagram and you see the cooking that he does, that apron he wears, or the one he's been wearing recently, he bought that just before Christmas here in Ottawa. Very, very pleasant guy. I've also, when I worked at the Whale's Bone, there was one night Jack Layton came in when he was the leader of the opposition, or I don't think he was. I don't think he was the leader of the opposition at the time, but he came in, and super cool guy. We all had a drink. Oh, just I know. One day I will have one just like him. But he came in. He bought everyone in working a drink. And all he asked in return was like, can you put, because we had a record player there. He's like, can you just put Ziggy Stardust on? Can we listen to Ziggy Stardust? I was like, sure, of course we can. You know, he was great. We all had a drink with him. He was like a real dude. I enjoyed that. That was a good evening. What else we got here? Yeah, Don Penny says the first time he sliced a potato with the Nikiri, it blew him away. Yep. Kevin is being asked what his favorite type of cheese is. I believe Kevin's favorite type of cheese are really old, salty. Yeah, there he is. Montgomery's cheddar. Yeah.
Comté is the king of the cheeses.
Comté is good. I never know how to say it. Thank you for saying that, though.
That's my desert island cheese, man. If I could only have one for the rest of my life.
That's a good one. You know what I really like? You know what my favorite cheese is? And Mike Wrench bought me some for Christmas. Is the Sylvan Star Old Grizzly.
The Old Grizzly Gouda
from Alberta.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Mike bought me this big piece. It took me like 4 days to eat it all.
It's like salty, fudgy, delicious.
Oh yeah. I'd eat it every day. Except you can't get it here because it's like, actually, if you buy it somewhere here, keep your mouth shut because they're not supposed to be selling it and you'll get them in trouble.
I'll throw some in next time I have to send a box to Ottawa.
Oh, please do.
They sell it at the farmer's market down the street from us.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Ted is asking Kevin what's on the smoker, and Kevin's response is snow. Someone put a Zero Chemigot on Twitter yesterday. They are beautiful. The Zeros are like a top-notch knife. You know, they are beautiful. They are Like the fit and finish is awesome. Saji is an incredible knife maker. Super blue carbon steel, stainless steel jacket, so stupid sharp, easy to take care of. Yeah, there's nothing to sneeze at. And the ironwood handle. Remember we used to get Denkas with ironwood handles? Those
I have one.
You have one? Nick Vidito has one. I want to go rob him.
I have the my 150 mil has an ironwood handle on it, and I love it. But I need a 0. It's on my list of things that I haven't got yet that I need.
Derek is asking if we ever get Tinker anything anymore. I believe we do, Derek, but it doesn't make it to the stores.
Get yourself on the list.
So what happens with these super exclusive products and I'll just rhyme them off for you and save you guys the trouble of typing them after. Hinora River Jumps, Tinker Tanks, or the Shark Tooth Deba, or any of that. Anything by Shigafusa. Some of the Mizaki, even like his white carbon knives, they seem to just fly out. Like they don't make it to the store, right? So what happens is we receive them in the warehouse and then people buy them online. So if you want to get in on that, what you got to do is find the knife you like. If it's out of stock, there'll be a little red button on the screen. It says notify me when available. You click on that button, you stick your email address in. The second that the folks in the warehouse unpack that knife and put it on the shelf, it becomes available for sale. The website sends out an automatic message to the first, 10 or 15 people on the list and gives them first crack at it. If no one buys it, it goes to the next set. If no one buys it, it goes to the next set. Except I don't think it ever makes it through the first set.
Rarely.
Because like I said, I haven't had a Tinker tank in the store in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
They just don't make it. So we do get them, but they don't make it to the shops because people are buying them online. And then Everest says, I'm surprised more blacksmiths don't run limited editions or number releases like that. I know that that's something that Kurosaki likes to play around with, makes a lot of one-offs and stuff like that. I think some of the younger guys are getting a little bit more into that. They're realizing the potential of social media and, things like, using Instagram, using Facebook to kind of get the word out and keeping things. You got to realize that the young blacksmiths that we work with are all older than I am.
Yeah.
Right. I'm 35. All the young guys are in their 40s to 50s. Right. The old guys like Fujiwara is like, I don't know, he's got to be 70 years old. Onru just turned 80 in the spring. So these guys aren't messing around with Instagram. They don't give a shit. They just want to do their job, right? But the young guys are they're fiddling around with it, right? Masashi's making something new every year. We're getting these like small makers in, like Kasuke Manaka. We're getting like stuff from Kobayashi with those kind of funky handle. Like you're seeing more of it. So I think Everest, that's something that you should keep an eye out for. And as we get them for garage sales and stuff like that, keep an eye on our social media. We're going to do our best to help promote our friends as well, right? Oh my God, AJ something bad happened to AJ. Was on the waiting list for a tank, ordered it, and then it got lost in shipping. Oh, that sucks, man. I'm sorry that happened. Mount Everest is saying, at what point does a sharp spoon become a knife, though? This is the question.
When Facebook bans you from selling it.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if you use it to cut stuff. It's maybe just a shitty knife at that point. Sergiotto is asking, how many tattoos do I have and how many of them are of knives? I don't have a single knife tattoo.
Show them the chip bag one. That's my favorite one.
That one. Where is it? There it is. That guy. It's just a cactus. A couple cacti. Got a little scorpion there. I don't have a single knife on me. I don't think. I think I got this guy's got sharp teeth. That's about it. Really.
Tattoos are the reason I had to retire from the kitchen. No one would hire me because they didn't think I was a cook because I didn't have any tattoos.
Yeah, you're not a chef. You're not a chef.
I can't. I'm not qualified.
You know what, though? Underneath this here, I did have a pig. I did have one kind of foodie tattoo. Now, I will say that I had it before it was immensely popular tattoo to have. It wasn't particularly well done. But when I left the kit, it was sketched by my ex-wife. So I didn't want to look at it anymore. So I had it covered up there. So, but I've got, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell you, like, I don't really count them as, one, like, cause like that's technically one tattoo. I sat down in one go for that, but I could argue that it's 8. I could argue that it's 8 tattoos.
It is 8 tattoos.
I usually get a new tattoo once a year or so. It's something that my girlfriend and we do for Valentine's Day. Instead of spending a ton of money on dinner or something, I just pay for us to go get it. That's where the chip bag, that was the first Valentine's Day tattoo. And then this funny little eyeball guy, that was the other one. That was the next one. And then this one here, the demon hand with the D&D dice, that was the last one. So, which just turns into, it's kind of I'm getting a raw deal, to be honest, because I'm paying for 2 tattoos and I only get 1. So, Nate's just being silly. Lorenzo is thanking us. Sharpening question from Sergioto. Interesting to me is to use whetstones without water for honing. Can be done. It feels really weird.
Yeah.
The
water, I don't like the noise.
The water is there for a couple of reasons on a sharpening stone. You're splashing water on there to kind of flush away any debris from the stone or steel off of the knife so things don't get all kind of gummed up. When we're using like our sharpening wheels that we have, they use water to kind of keep the steel from heating up too much. And it serves as a bit of a lubricant. Can be done, doesn't feel great, to be perfectly honest. Nate really is just trying to get Kevin to talk about knives.
I think Kevin bailed, though.
Yeah, he probably...
I saw Chow. Either that or he's eating.
Nice. Yeah. And Ted is going off to do dinner. Sergioto says, since I have my stones close by, I often do a quick 10 strokes on a strop, motions on the Naniwa Pro, and then a quick leather strop, more sharp again. You know what? If it works for you, it works for you. I am not the sort to tell you that there is only one way to sharpen a knife, because I learn new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Blank blank. Where are you located, blank blank? I'm just curious. They have a side business sharpening knives right now. During the week, works as a cook at a sober living facility, and during the weekend goes to the farmer's market. Eric, our old assistant manager in Ottawa, had since moved back to Moncton. I believe he does something similar, sharpens knives at the farmer's market. But yeah, word of mouth is great, right? It's just like when you're a cook, you're only as good as the last knife you sharpened.
Yep.
Right? Whereas that's a common kind of kitchen phrase, is you're only as good as the last plate you put out. How do you know what stones to use on a knife that you're not familiar with? Guess the type of steel and try it out. To be perfectly honest, I'm not too fussy about my stones. I don't mess around with a ton of different combinations. Like I was taught how to sharpen on a 220, a 1000, a 4000, and an 8000. If I'm doing that works for 90% of the knives I've ever done. Like, to be honest, that works for 100% of the knives I've ever sharpened. I've never not been able to achieve a good edge using those stones. I do like to kind of play around with some of the Naniwa professional stones. I'll go from the 2000 to the 5000 sometimes. But yeah, no, I use a pretty standard progressions of stones. I don't really,
especially if I don't know the steel. If I don't know the steel,
yeah.
I'm gonna. And you can usually tell when you put it on the first stone, kind of how soft it is. And so if it's a little bit softer, I'm not going to take it up to an 8000. I'll just finish it on 1000, and that'll be fine. But yeah, those are the.
I got a question over on Instagram that I think everyone would like to hear, because it kind of ties in with what we're talking about. Chef CJA 13, I have a diamond stone that I just got and use it like a whetstone. Do you like diamond stones or plates? I use an Atoma diamond plate for truing my stones, and when I get really pissed off. Like if there's like a really nasty chip in a knife, or someone's been sharpening their knife like a dickhead for years, and I got to thin it out. I've been known to grab the Atoma plate and thin out a super fat knife on it, just because it cuts fast. You remove it takes a lot of steel off of the knife. It's not something I would use on every knife, but it is
if you've got kind of a really messed up single bevel too, where the bevel on the front is either a little bit rounded or not, it brings them back pretty quick too. But no, for the most part, it's angry jobs and keeping stones flat.
Yeah. There's a couple. Samurai Fingers says if you have to ask, you probably can't afford it. But then Derek comes back with, you don't remember what it cost because it didn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any Japanese stones of any kind, unless it's super steel, then I have to use my diamond resin bonded stones. Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of harder steels can use a harder stone, right? Like that's one of the reasons why I might tell you why you might want a Annealing professional stone over the Annealing traditional, or the Knifewear stones, as we call them. The harder bonded stone is going to do a better job on the harder steels. But they'll all do fine in the end. It just means there's no difference between knife to knife except for how long it takes you. The technique is always the same. You can use the same stones. You find what you like. Natural stones are a different conversation altogether. And you talk to Naoto about that tomorrow afternoon, because I don't.
Yeah, he's the expert.
I don't want to tell you any lies. Here's a good question. What's your preferred thickness of a gyuto? That's not going to be an easy one.
No. The easy answer for me is I don't know, because I've got a lot of knives that are different thicknesses, but I don't know that I've ever measured one of my own. So I couldn't tell you what the size is that I like. I know that I've got a Kotetsu Type 3 that I feel like if you turn it the right way, it's invisible because it's so thin. And I love that knife, but there's certain things that I don't want to do with it. So it really kind of... I've got a Mugen Hap 40 that is not a thin knife. It is thick, but it's always sharp. So there's certain jobs that I love that one for because I never have to think about it.
Yeah. Someone, Totoro88, is asking about our opinion about Sakai Kikamori Choyo series. Hyper justified. Love the finish. Never held one in my hand. They look nice. They look real pretty, but I can't give you a real answer. Never actually held on to one, or tried using one, so I wouldn't be able to give you an honest opinion. Sorry about that. What do I think of Mitsumi? There's a couple questions here about Hinora. What do we think of Mitsumi Hinora? And I'm just gonna. So Dork asked that. Sergio is saying super high level blacksmith already, or does he need a few more years? I know that he's young and he produces only one line for now. Here's the thing about old blacksmiths, guys. I'm gonna tell you a little secret. They don't do everything themselves. All right. There's a reason, like the fact, like he will be taking over. He's also, his father is one of the best blacksmiths who make knives. So he's bound to be good. He's got his dad. Like, imagine doing anything with your dad over your shoulder. It's never good enough. But imagine if your dad was like the best at that thing. Like, you're bound to be better than most people, right? So I think the important thing to know is that he produces a line under his name, but he is involved in the process of the knives that his father makes. So he is going to be a great
He's also been making a bunch of other stuff before. He made a lot of hunting and outdoor knives and tools as well. So he's been banging on steel his whole life. And every time I pick up one of his knives, I'm astonished at how much I enjoy the feel of them. So I think that he's making great stuff already, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, so we get those keep an eye out for those around garage sale. He makes these shirogami. It's like a kind of like a Kurochi Nishiji kind of finish. They're super slick and they're not crazy expensive. Like I think like a 210
months ago, and it was so nice.
Yeah, no, they're they're incredible. Like it's just, you know what, you're getting something amazing. You're getting a Hinora without like dad's price tag, to be perfectly honest. But one day he will be the one making those river jumps, or his version of, right? It's just the way it works. Everest is very kind, saying that I can keep my nice knives at their house if I need a babysitter.
That's generous.
And then Samurai Fingers is saying that they are 41 years old and have never known how to properly cut an onion. Watched my video.
Don't do it like Lordy.
Now you can cut onion like a pro. Yeah, you know what? Do it that way, and it'll be amazing. You're the best.
Just eat it raw, like the knucklehead in that video.
Yeah, that was terrible. There wasn't enough gum to get that onion. It's like, I don't know how this has happened. Like, I've turned out, like, in my regular life, everybody I think needs to know this, because Kris knows this. In my regular life, I don't actually say that much. Like, if we'll be sitting around a table, like, we go to, like, we'll have these, like, manager meetings in Calgary. It hasn't happened in a couple of years, but we're all sitting around this big table. I just wait to the end. I don't often have very much to say, but for some,
like this in meetings and goes, ugh.
Yeah, I just get really bored. I don't have much, like, I don't know how I've fallen into this, or how I've become like the Johnny Knoxville of knifewear, like breaking pumpkins on my head and eating raw onions, or like shit talking people. Like, I don't know how I've fallen into this. I'm having a good time doing it, so I'm not going to give it up anytime soon. But this is not like, I've never once woke up in the morning like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to host a YouTube Ask Me Anything about kitchen knives. It's never been on my to-do list. Over on Instagram, we got I use Wusthof knives and have loads, but only use 5 of them. I want to downsize and get maybe 5 Japanese knives. What do you recommend as a good first make? Well, it depends. I got two trains of thought. Are you looking for something like, are you just looking for something to kind of sub in? If that's the case, I think the Fujimoto Hammer Tone is a really great line. You're going to probably find one to match those 5 knives of your Western knives that you really like. And you're several steps up from entry level at that point, but you're not going to deal with a lot of maintenance or a lot of care. But if you wanted to, like, if money's no option and you just want the best, Fujiwara Denka. So that's kind of like, doing you a favor there by giving you 2 options. I didn't just say just the super crazy fancy one. Most famous chef, we did that. I am. One day I'm gonna start like a Japanese knife political party. Samurai Fingers sold a set of cheap piece of crap knives to Vikram Vij when he was in Vancouver. Thought he was a great
amazing ping pong player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you know what Vikram Vij told me once?
What's that?
That I made the best cornbread he'd ever had in his life.
Wow.
Now, that might have changed. He might have had a better one since, but he was a very nice man to cook for.
We did an event that was like a winemaker restaurant showcase thing here in Edmonton, and they had a ping pong tournament for producers and restaurateurs, and he schooled everybody. Was bouncing around in bare feet with this flowing silk shirt like some kind of ninja. He was amazing. Yeah. Very, very nice man. I'm just kind of thinking back to Nate's question about famous chefs and stuff. There was one night I ended up when we went to Terroir. I think I had abandoned. No, it wasn't Terroir. I don't know what it was, but I ended up at a restaurant in Chinatown at 4:00 in the morning with Robert Clark and Rob Belcham and Jesse Vergen and Todd Perrin. And Jesse Vergen and Robert Clark were arguing about what seafood they could order in the Chinese restaurant, because Jesse wanted some kind of deep fried shrimp, and Robert Clark, who's like the godfather of Ocean Wise, was ready to just like lay him out in the restaurant. And like Rob Belcham, who's like a huge guy, was just like, he had to get between the two of them. It was like, guys, just relax. Fighting over fish in the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, everyone's like, it was. What else do you do in Toronto?
I don't know.
Here's a good question from AJ. What type of food makes for a good cut test to determine the quality of a good knife?
Tomato, potato, carrot.
Yeah. All those things.
Those are the real testers.
Yeah. Right? A potato is going to tell you how thin the knife is, right? You're going to get a real idea for when you cut as to how like kind of wedgy the knife is going to get. How smoothly does it go through a dense vegetable? A tomato does a really good job of letting you know how sharp it is, right? Because who hasn't fought with a dull knife versus a tomato? And carrot, I know that a lot of people like to use carrots. I know Shibata-san prefers to use carrots. The big difference I find is when you eat a piece of carrot that was cut with a dull knife, and you put a piece of carrot in your mouth that was cut with a very sharp knife, that is the huge telling feature.
Takamura likes to use carrots to demonstrate how sharp knives are, and embarrassed the hell out of me when I was in his office because Kevin said, you should show off your knife skills and show him how to do a brunoise. And I did a beautiful tiny brunoise of carrots. And then he sliced the end off this big carrot, and he did so many tiny little lines on top of it, and then turned it 45 degrees and did it again, and then shaved it off, put it on a piece of white paper, and then handed me a jeweler's loop so I could see how tiny his brunoise was.
Oh man, you got
and it was insanely tiny. And I was just like, yes, I have been bested.
Yeah. You've done that before. All right. You didn't explain the rules. That's what you should have said.
You didn't tell me that's not a real brunoise. It's not the right size. It's too small.
Dr. G says that they like the Zero, but are they tall enough for a good knuckle clearance for someone who wears a large size glove? Definitely. I will grab one and show you what it looks like because
the Tsujihiki is the perfect big mitt Tsujihiki because it's so tall. It's almost like a Gyuto. I love that knife. It looks like a medieval sword, and it holds an edge.
So this here, just for some reference, Dr. G, I wear an extra large glove, and I'm holding on to a 210 Gyuto. Okay, so you've got plenty of room there. That centimeter is going to take about, well, depends on how nasty you are to the knife, but through normal use, it's going to take 20 years for the knife to get that small. You know, if you sharpen it every second day, it's gonna happen faster. And if you get super drunk and put a quarter-size chip in your knife, well, that's a different scenario. Peter says that he's too indecisive for tattoos, so he just puts the money towards new knives.
That's a good choice. That's what I do.
That's good choice there. I will tell you that
tattoos last forever. Did you know that? Like you can't.
I have heard that. Yeah. You can't get rid of them, but you know what? I haven't gotten a tattoo in the last 10 years that I saw before someone started doing it. You know, I just kind of, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's my tattoo advice. Okay. Don't look for the cheapest one. Find an artist that you like. I've done that. There's tattoos on my back right now. You'll never see them. They're terrible. All right. But if you find an artist that you like, I guess it's like a blacksmith. You find an artist that you like, you give them the amount of money that they want, and you let them figure it out for you. Right? People got different tones of skin. Like I can't just say like, hey, like put a bunch of yellow in it. Like yellow doesn't show up on my skin. You know, let the artists do what they want, you know? Mount Everest asked if I ended up getting Tasha's Cauldron for Christmas. That's a D&D manual. For those of you who do not know, Chris Armitage would not have known what you're talking about. I did. Fun fact, Kevin gave it to me for Christmas.
Oh, that's sweet.
Blank Blank is in Houston, Texas. That's fun. One of my favorite bands is from Houston, Texas. It's the Rev and Horton Heat. They're from Houston, or just outside of Houston, I think. Samurai Fingers used to live right around the corner from the Naniwa factory. That's fun. And Grant is asking what a river jump is. And then Rob has a very difficult question for me to explain. So you tell everyone what a river jump is. I'm going to mute myself for a second so I can tell Chef CJA. I can answer their question.
All right. Yeah. A river jump is simply spectacular. Basically, the reason it's called river jump is because it has a Damascus pattern that runs from one side of the knife to the other. I'm going to see if I can find a picture of it in this book. And so Hinora-san is building his own Damascus steel, which is really cool. We don't have a lot of blacksmiths that do that. And then he performs a process on it that they call torsion. So basically what he does is he lines up all of Damascus, and then when the steel is hot, he twists it. So I don't know if you guys can see this when I hold it up. Let's see if we can get it in there. That is a Hinora river drum. And so that pattern that you can see along here, if you flip that knife over, I can't do that because it's a picture, the pattern will run kind of opposite on the other side. Ridiculously hard to do. There's a massive failure rate because when you twist hot steel, you can get little fissures in it, and then when you quench it, they break. And Hinora-san also has ridiculously high standards when it comes to the finished product. So even the ones that do turn out, he doesn't release all of the ones for sale because he doesn't think they're quite good enough. So that's what a Hinora river jump is. Are you back, Lordy?
I'm back. I came back. I just realized what time it was.
It's 3:49. So, we've been doing this for a while.
We've been doing this for a while. I'm going to fly through a few questions here. Okay. Shiraj is asking, thinking about getting a Moritaka Ishime Nikiri in the future. What are your thoughts? Ishime knives are amazing. I own 3 of them, and then 2 other Moritaka knives. You know what? If there's something about it that speaks to you, go for it. You know, they make a wide variety of sizes too, so you'll be able to find something that fits you better. If you're a little bit if you're on the smaller side, they make a 150, they make a 165. If you're a little bit taller, you're a little bit bigger, they make a 180. They also make the Mega Nikiri, so they got one for everybody. Rob Nguyen has asked the question of the week: when is the Masakage sale? And I kind of have some bad news for you, Rob. We're not doing a Masakage sale this year. Normally, during the month of February, Masakage knives are 15% off. The problem this year is that with all of this kind of pandemic nonsense that we're all living through, the supply of Masakage knives has dwindled. So we don't actually have very many knives to put on sale. And we got a couple kicks in the ass last year. Like a bread knife sale comes to mind, where we had this idea, we're going to run a 2-week bread knife sale, 50 to 30% off of all the bread knives. And we had ordered a bunch and they never showed up. And we ran out of knives in about 3 hours, and it was really embarrassing. And a lot of people got super mad at us. So we're going to try to avoid that this year. So we don't have the stock to run a Masakage sale, but a little bit later in the year, we're talking about doing a Fujimoto and a Haruyuki sale to kind of make up for it. So, thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, but I know Naoto's trying to bolster the inventory a little bit of the Haruyuki lines and the Fujimoto so that we can put a discount on those guys and watch them disappear very quickly.
And you know what? We're disappointed too. It's something that we look forward to, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Okay. Michelle Cote's got a good piece of advice for people. Michelle's a friend over in Quebec City. Hasn't sharpened their Japanese knives yet, but practicing with European ones, it's easier. It is easier. You'll get results faster, and then you can you just kind of you take those same technique, kind of mastered the Western knives. Well, then you don't have to worry when you go to your Japanese knives. Dork is saying they've got a couple of Matsumi Hinoras. They're amazing thin behind the edge and have that thick distal taper. When someone says a distal taper, they're referring to when the knife starts thick at the spine and gets thinner as you go to the end. So it's not something you would ever see in a factory-made knife where a knife is stamped. You'll see it on a hand-hammered knife, and more often you'll see it on a knife that's made using a technique called roller forging, which is something you often see in powdered steels. And that's where they'll take it. It's a roller forge is exactly what you think it is. It is a gigantic pasta machine that you stick hot steel into, and that thins it out. So, what else have I got here? Have I ever come across Hiro Nakagawa knives from Nagano region? Guidos go over 600 to 800 USD. What's our opinion on them? Sorry, Sergio, I've never heard of that before you've asked. That would be a really good question. If you're free tomorrow afternoon, to ask Nauto.
Yeah.
Nauto, that'll be at 2 hours later than what we started today. He would know. He's the one who kind of looks around all over the place. Everest is asking for the next video idea, me making cornbread. And my face post pumpkin test was the best. You guys
it was a good face.
Yeah, well,
let's do a cornbread video. I want to see your cornbread recipe because I bet you it's different.
Yeah, well, I'll have to ask Alex what it is because I don't remember it. It involves a shit ton of sour cream, egg yolks, and pureed corn.
Oh,
there's a lot of fat that goes in it.
Mine's too sweet and bacony, is what I've been told. But I'm like, I don't care.
I don't put any sugar in it. I don't put any sugar in it.
No.
All the sugar in it comes from the pureed corn. That's the only sugar that goes.
I do sugar and honey, but I got a sweet tooth.
Yeah. See, I don't. Ellipses says, but thanks for the cool sticker I included with the note from the recent Kuroshu Kobunka order. It graces my knife. Oh, well, I'm glad. Thank you for noticing. I try to write little notes on all the boxes that I pack up. I don't pack as many as what some other people do, but I always try to leave a little note and tell a story if I can. Robin wants more Haruyukis, looking forward to a sale. And they could see themselves buying a Haruyuki Yokuma Petty if I ever saw it back in stock. Probably wouldn't even wait for a sale. I agree. I'm a huge fan of the Yokumas and the Kumas. I have a 210 Kuma that I use a lot. One of my favorite knives. It's super easy to take care of. It didn't break the bank. I also I've got a 240 here. They don't do it on the Yokuma, but they do it on the, there's fingerprints all over this thing. Probably from the last time I showed it. But a touch that I really like is how they call this part of the knife the choil, right? It sounds kind of dirty, but they do machine it out a bit. Like I love that.
Rounded and smooth, very comfortable.
Yeah, those Makoto Todokoro knives like we had for the they do the same thing, where it's just kind of, now they're a little bit sharper in there on those guys, but yeah, it's just, I like that stuff. That's the stuff I look for, right? Like, how's the spine feel? Like, I don't care if there's like this isn't like perfectly round or whatnot, but the fact that they took the time to smooth it out a bit, I like that kind of stuff. I think that's a beautiful knife. It's not like the fanciest, but it doesn't have to be fancy to be beautiful.
It's a knife-shaped knife is what I like about it. It looks like a knife is supposed to look like.
Yeah. It's knife-shaped, sharp.
Yeah.
Well, good night, Sergio. Thanks for tuning in all the way from Bulgaria. That's great. Yeah. So if you got some more sharpening questions and stuff, hit us up. Hit Nauto up tomorrow, and then I'll be back on Saturday. And Nathan is going to do a little bit of a kimchi demo.
Oh, I'm glad that's not television.
Yeah, I know. We can harass Nathan a little bit. He's really fun to pick on because he just takes. It's great.
He's a punching bag.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't know if he could keep up if he tried to start throwing them back at me.
No.
I'm very well versed in the art of kitchen talk. He got out too early.
Exactly.
So.
He still has manners.
Yeah. That my kids have been in virtual learning for the last 2 weeks or whatever, like since they were supposed to go back to school. I don't know what kind of time warp I'm in right now, but the lots of colorful language and getting overheard. I'm sure my kids have been put in like virtual detention because of things I've done. Nate is saying, what are the next 3 knives I should get? I have a chef's knife and a utility knife with a Nakiri on the horizon. What do you need outside of those 3? You need a Hanasuki.
A
Sujihiki. And then what do you think the last one is, Chris? I have an idea.
Oh. He's getting maybe a small petty.
Like a little petty.
Thinking? Yeah.
I was going to say bread knife.
Bread knife's good too.
Yeah. Oh, Everest, I am stoked that school starts on Monday again. I've been going, okay, so here's the thing. My poor girlfriend's been stuck at home with the 3 kids. She's in school herself, kind of taking a crack at a second career here. She's in school herself, and she decided to quit smoking this week. So I walk home to a war zone every day. It's terrible.
I'm surprised you don't work 24 hours a day right now.
I try to, but you know. Well, here. Holy moly, that went fast.
That did go fast.
We
didn't do
just
any of our top 10 questions.
We didn't get to, but you know what? We covered a lot of them during. A lot of people asked most of the top 10 questions. You know, we talked about why are they more expensive? You know what one that Megan had that I thought was great was, are those lentils?
Yeah. That's
because we store the knives in the cases. We store them on lentils, and the reason why is because the lentils kind of create a bit of a cushion for the knives. They're not just rattling around against each other. They also help with Ottawa. Is not like Calgary. It's very humid here. Kind of helps with the humidity a little bit. But yeah, no, they just look cool. Like they're orange and they're cheaper than other stuff.
Yeah, red cheaper than lining the cases with silk.
Yeah. So, but that's one that comes up a bit. So here, why don't Kris, I'm going to start doing my tear down.
Okay.
And if anyone has a few more questions, by all means, shoot for them. You got us for a few more minutes, but I've got a little bit of housekeeping that I wanted to discuss.
Yeah, let's do our homework.
We do have some important stuff to talk about. Operation Come Home and their $24 challenge. Operation Come Home is a local charity here in Ottawa that works with at-risk youth, layman's terms, homeless kids. And what they do, they offer a variety of programming through kind of counseling. They've got employment services, housing services. They even provide some jobs through social enterprises. But they're doing a fundraiser starting on February 1st called the $24 Challenge. And Alex and myself in Ottawa and Kevin in Calgary have committed to surviving, to only spending $24 each on our groceries for 1 week. So that's not going to leave very much. Kevin calls me every day with different tactics that he's thought about. Today he was all about baked beans from the dollar store. He figures he can buy enough cans of baked beans at the dollar store that he could survive for a week. But the idea is that we're going to raise some money for this charity. The number 24 is important because what happens is that's the number that most of the clients of Operation Come Home, that's the amount of money they would actually have after they've paid whatever. Like if they're in community housing and they're on government assistance, even if they had a part-time job, that's the average amount of money that one of them would have left per week to buy food. And that's not very much. I was laughing today with Megan. I spent $15 at the deli for my lunch today. I bought some salami, a piece of cheese, and an apple. I guess I'm probably gonna be living off of instant ramen 3 meals a day. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So Alex and I are going to. He's doing it with me. We're gonna pool our $24 together. We're gonna go shopping. So I think keep an eye on this coming Sunday on Instagram for Alex and I going on a shopping trip. We'll probably just kind of live stream some of it while we're there. I'll probably curse a whole bunch because Alex drives me up the wall. Alex is going to say so many dumb things and I'm going to get so mad at him. So So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. We've also got, Kyle says egg drop ramen. If you would be interested in, we're going to be putting some stuff out on our social media. Kevin had written a blog post that had links to if you wanted to donate. But keep an eye on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth. If you'd like to donate, it would be much appreciated. But if you can't, kind of just spreading the word a little bit is just as good as far as I'm concerned. A fun fact is that Kevin said that he would double the amount he raised if he screws up and spends more than the $24. So if you're looking to donate to Kevin. Don't donate to me. Because if you can drive that number up, it's better for the charity if he screws up. So that's my vote. My parents actually donated to Kevin and not to me because of that reason. So
I'm digging up the blog post for you so we can post it in the feed here.
Oh, great. Another thing I wanted to talk about, we're getting closer. Ottawa still in a provincial lockdown. There's no, you can't just come and hang out in the store, but we are still doing curbside sharpening, curbside pickups. If you've got a knife, we have it in stock. You can order it online, pick it up here in the store. If you need some knives sharpened, you can come to the front door, drop them off. We'll get you sorted out. But the website's always, the store's always open online, knifewear.com. What else? We got fragrance sale coming up, Ken of Inglewood. We don't talk about Ken of Inglewood too often on here, but we do have a whole, like Kris and I
another store.
Both manage a second store called Kent of Inglewood, which is all about kind of classic grooming and shaving. So we have some really amazing, like if you're into kind of perfumes.
Inglewood brand on my hat today. Like Grandpa.
Oh, what do you got there? Oh, like Grandpa. Sweet.
He does beard care and shaving products and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah. So if you're into that, like it's just more sharp stuff for us to play with, right? Outdoor knives, folding knives, razors. We were talking about straight razors a little bit in the feed here today. I noticed that. So if you hadn't been to Ken of Inglewood or heard of it, it's worth checking out. Yeah, but between the 1st and 5th, ooh, that's a nice one. Between the 1st and 15th of February, all fragrance is 15% off. So that's, if you're a lot of people like to collect different scents. So I don't know if it's up your alley, take a look. I think that's all I got.
That's all your homework?
That's all my homework.
Check everything off.
Yeah, we got some new Haruyuki lines coming out.
Yes.
But I don't think they haven't arrived yet.
No, what is the new one that just arrived? With the Western handle.
No, the Western one I don't know.
No, there's one with a Western handle and a Damascus pattern on it. And it just arrived and I can't remember what it's called. I just saw it this morning.
So that's the Haruyuki Soba.
Yes.
So all the Haruyuki knives are named after ingredients that are used in making shochu, which is a type of, well, it's booze. It's a type of liquor and alcohol. So in Japan, so soba is the word for buckwheat. So a lot of us probably know what a soba noodle is. And then I've been given a search. So those are a new type of steel. We saw them for the first time around the garage sale. Robin, I put the link there for Kent of Inglewood for you, as per Kris's insistence there. The little chat thing pops up with a link
up in your face telling you what to do.
So yeah, they're a ZA18, which is a stainless steel. These ones in particular have a Damascus finish with a black pack of wood handle. They are beautiful, and they're not expensive. For a Damascus, I think you're looking around $200 for a Santoku, somewhere in around that zone. I'm kind of going off of memory. I haven't seen them since they've come back. There's another one coming out too called the Kuri, which means chestnut. Kuri means chestnut, and that's going to be an AUS 10 with a Damascus finish. I can't really remember what that one looked like, but that's a good steel. They're not going to be too crazy on the price point either. So, but if in the meantime, it was good having Kris with us for a couple of days. Hopefully, we'll see him again. We don't. It was fun.
For Kevin, I'll do it. Do you know what I learned this week doing this with you? Well, I wanted to learn more about Switzerland, but all I've learned is that their flag is a big plus. Yeah. So
we made it the whole time.
I know. Like
we made the whole way without.
And then I just
that joke.
Maybe you don't want to have me back.
Maybe that was You know what? If I don't know now.
I was gonna do the seagull joke. Do you want me to do the seagull joke?
You can do the seagull joke because I'm gonna answer a question on Instagram and then we're gonna say goodbye.
Do you know why seagulls don't fly over the bay? Because then they'd be bagels. He's muted me. He doesn't want to hear my jokes. I did it just for Kevin, but he's not watching. So if you got any other great dad jokes, let me know. I like dad jokes. I don't know why Lordy doesn't have a sense of humor about anything. He just doesn't like to laugh, I guess. He's never going to invite me back to this show.
You know what? It's not that I don't like dad jokes. It's that I have to hear the same fucking ones over and over and over again. All right? Like, that's what it is. Like, it's like I laugh. I laughed the first time I heard that the Switzerland flag was a big plus.
Here's a new one for you.
Give me a new one.
Do you know how you flirt with your math teacher?
No.
You got to use an acute angle.
See, that's good. That's good because I thought about Mr. Roy, my grade 10 math teacher. I would never flirt with him.
No.
So Trevor has asked, what time is the show on Saturday? So it's the same spot. Okay. So Trevor, I don't know if you're in Alberta, if you're in Ontario, I can't remember, but it's going to be 4 o'clock Ontario time and it's going to be 2 o'clock Calgary time. So Nathan is going to kind of be running the show on that one. Because he's got, I don't know, he's making kimchi or something. I'll probably, I don't even know how good he is at making kimchi. So if you guys want to really throw him for a loop, come with some pretty hard kimchi questions. Yeah. You know, like, oh, what style of kimchi is this? What do you specialize in? That would be, I would have a lot of fun.
How he's going to dig the hole to bury it when it's frozen in Calgary. You got to bury your kimchi. Everyone knows that.
Everyone knows you bury your kimchi. Come on. That's small potatoes. All right. Well, thanks, Kris. It was fun hanging out with you.
Yeah, you betcha. I had a blast. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Yeah, thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us and giving us something to do. It's a lot of fun.